And I want to say a few words about the members of our organization. I'm not going to name them, but I'm going to say that it's a professional organization. The chair of our group is a member of Community Board 3 and a former staff member of the Landmarks Preservation Commission, and several of it's all volunteer work, of course. We're not a paid staff. We have a person from City Law, members.
What's City Law?
Well, City Law is a long-standing organization that is involved with various cultural activities. It's had various permutations over the years, and
preserving history, New York City
yes,
history.
Yes.
Let me just take a minute, because a lot of people might not realize in the East Village we're talking about. I mean, New York City is an old city. It's one of the oldest cities in America. It was founded by the Dutch in 1624. That's when it was allegedly for $24. Purchased from the Indians by Peter Minuet, Indians who were just passing through and didn't even live here. And before that even, if you go to the New York Historical Society, you can find out that traders, that one of the first permanent European residents was a Portuguese former African slave who operated a fur trapping business with Indians here. Even before the Dutch were here, that parts of New York City are ancient, hundreds of years old. In the Lower East Side, it's one of the oldest parts of the city. The Bowery, 3rd Avenue, was a road that was actually an Indian path before it was a road, as was Bowery. And in the Lower East Side, that territory, the land that we're talking about right now, you can see right up there in the photograph behind us, was actually part of a farm that was owned by Peter Stuyvesant, the Dutch governor of New York, of New Amsterdam, before it was New York. And he is currently, to this day, still buried in the churchyard of his, what would have been many hundreds of years ago, his chapel, which is now the St. Mark's and the Bowery Church at the corner of 10th Street and 2nd Avenue. He's actually buried there. When I tell people that, they don't realize that the Queen of the Netherlands has come to New York to put a wreath on the grave. It's that important. So we're talking about an ancient historical area, a place that was before Europeans settled here, was actually a place where Indian villages were. Along the Bowery were some of the first freed black slaves were able to buy property, and actually where Astor Place is was actually a free black village that existed for some time, made up of slaves who were released by Peter Stuyvesant in his will after his death.
And I would like to add to what Paul said, the area which we're working on, the one which I described, there are relatively few designated New York City landmarks. Now, it's very important for people to understand. The designated, for instance, there's the National Register of Historic Places, which are some people advocate. That is a federal program, but it does not offer any protection at all for the buildings. In other words, a developer can tear the building down. It is simply a matter of siting, and has no other value as to site. We want to designate a historic district and individual sites so they will be preserved, well, as far as we know, in perpetuity, and so that they cannot be drastically altered. The interiors can be altered, and
even if there was a fire and a building like that was demolished, it has to be rebuilt in exact replica.
And so I want to allude to something which I didn't run through with Paul before the program, and you see, one of the advantages of having an in-place preservation organization is that people who are, for instance, on 2nd Street and 2nd Avenue, a church known as the Orthodox Church of America has applied for permits. This is a church probably about the 1890s to 1910. It is not a designated landmark, but it looks out on the New York Marble Cemetery.
Oh, I've been in that church.
Yes,
that's beautiful.
Yes, well, thank you. I've never been in it, so we'll discuss it.
Yeah.
They've taken out a permit to add an 8-story, 34-unit apartment building in place of the church. And so people, now this has just come to light. There was an article about it, a mention of it in the Observer, the New York Observer for September 16th. And so people who are concerned about this have contacted me in the last week. And so I've been attempting to line these people up with some of the, with community board, with the city council persons, to get some resources to find out what is happening. So having an in-place a preservation group in a community. Now, this is something that is important for all the communities of New York, is to have some kind of structure in place so people who are concerned about the preservation of a building have somebody to talk to, somebody to start them on the path. Provide them with the internet sites where they can access information and assistance, and that's one of the things that our group hopefully will be doing.